the summer of love.
Alright, what's up everybody, it's Rexbrook here. Today we're doing another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. This time we're doing Mythical Beast, the last new archetype, kind of new archetype, introduced in Extreme Forces. So, the interesting thing is that Mythical Beasts have been a thing for a long time, since nearly the start of Yu-Gi-Oh! With Gazelle, the king of Mythical Beasts. And then later on, they got a actual card in a structure deck that revolved around spell counters. And I'll actually look it up real quick to show you what it looks like. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to give you the disclaimer that, I'm going to give you the disclaimer that I'm not really an expert on pendulums. Like, just right off the bat, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Pendulums have never really been my thing. I never really got into a particular pendulum archetype. Arc 5 was sort of the era that I missed, or like the start of Arc 5 was the era that I missed. So I'm trying to look. So this is the Gazelle King of the Mythical Beast that I was talking about. And then there was another dude that, here he is, this dude, Mythical Beast Cerberus. And the main boss monster of this deck is actually based off of this card. So yeah, this dude is not part of the deck profile, but he is technically part of the archetype. He's just not a pendulum monster. But he does revolve around the spell counters, which is pretty interesting. And their equip card is actually based off of it. But we're going to go ahead and get into the deck profile. Just like I said, disclaimer, I'm not a super fan of pendulums. But actually, before I get into the deck profile, let me explain how they work. So yeah, basically they're pendulum monsters that don't revolve around the pendulum mechanic. Instead, they focus on spell counters, which is a really interesting take, and I'm really surprised it hadn't been done before, like at some point in time during Arc 5, because having pendulums based around spell counters is actually really powerful if done right. And I think this deck is missing a little something, like the archetype. I don't know what it's missing. Maybe like an extra deck monster. Or, I don't know, I feel like they are definitely missing something. Maybe a field spell of their own. But yeah, they all revolve around spell counters. And it's pretty interesting what they do. So we're going to jump right in, get rid of the hand traps first with Maxi and 3 Ash Blossoms. They're just essential for playing Yu-Gi-Oh! At this point. I don't like running them, and I wish that I didn't have to, because there'd be more room to make more innovations on the deck. But this is what we have to work with, and we just got to deal with it. So this is what we run. We also have... Alright, so moving on to the first Mythical Beast card, Master Cerberus. He's actually the boss monster for the deck. And one last thing I forgot to mention about the Mythical Beasts is all of them have the same pendulum effect, or like the same pendulum theme for their pendulum effect, which is if you have no other card in your other pendulum zone, then you can destroy this card to do something else. And he searches out any of the Mythical Beast pendulum monsters, actually no, any of the Mythical Beasts, including Gazelle, even the other dude that I showed earlier, the smaller version of himself. The only person that he can't search out is himself. So there we go, because they have to be level 7 or lower, and he's not level 7 or lower. So yeah, that's what he does. And also, for his monster effect, whenever a spell is activated, you get to place 2 spell counters on him. Also, if there are 4 more spells counters on the field, he can't be destroyed by card effects. And then once per turn, you can move 4 anywhere from the field to target a monster your opponent controls and banish it. And if you do, this monster gains attack equal to that monster's attack. So he's a win condition because, other than the targeting, he can pretty much get rid of almost anything. So if your opponent is just over-eager in their first turn and they get out like their boss monster, you can just use this to get over it pretty much. And yeah, he's a level 8, but he's surprisingly easy to get out with this deck. So yeah, we also run 3 of our Mythical Beast King, Jackal. So for him, his pendulum effect is you can special summon a Mythical Beast pendulum monster from your extra deck. And typically you're going to be special summoning Cerberus. So Yeah, this is the most important card in the deck. I will say that repetitively, just because of the fact that he can, whatever card gets sent to your extra deck, you can special summon it right off the bat with King Jackal. So you always make sure that you won't have at least one copy of this in your hand. Always. My bad. So I forgot an effect. I forgot the monster effect. That's why I said this is something that I'm not used to. I'm not used to doing Pendulum decks. Anyways, so for him, you get to place the 2 spell counters whenever a spell resolves. Also, he has a quick effect. Whenever an opponent's monster effect activates, you can remove 2 spell counters to negate the activation and destroy the card. So, has the best monster effect in my opinion, the best Pendulum effect. He's just really good. The boss monsters are the best part of the deck by far. Basilisk, this is a definite 3 of. His Pendulum effect is that you can shuffle a face-up spellcaster Pendulum monster from your extra deck into the deck, except for itself, and then you can draw a card. So, basically, I don't know, it's definitely one of the better Pendulum effects for the deck. Like I said, he's a definite 3 of. I do think it could have been done a little bit differently. But it is what it is, and getting to draw a card is always good in the game. And typically you're going to be shuffling Jackal off of this, just because searching cards is pretty easy with this deck. So you're going to want to search out your Jackal, or shuffle your Jackal from the extra deck back into the main deck. Also, for all of these lower monsters, I'm pretty sure they all have place 1 spell counter on it, so I'm going to stop saying that. But you can remove 3 spell counters from anywhere on your field to return a Mythical Beast card from your Pendulum zone, or face up from your extra deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Mythical Beast Basilisk once per turn. So this is also really good for getting Jackal out. So this is basically your Jackal recovery, or your Cerberus recovery, and he just creates so many loops with the deck, and it's just a perfect card. It has really good attack for level 4. I don't really have anything to complain about. His Pendulum effect is the only part that's sort of iffy on me, but it is essential to the deck, and I think if they had made it any more powerful, the card probably would have gotten hit to at least to 2 or something. But it is definitely a really good card. We also have 3 Gerudo. You could probably run this at 2. I just didn't know. I couldn't think of a reason to put it at 2. So there's that. But yeah, he just targets he's basically an MST in the Pendulum zone, and then his monster effect is a bit different. He's actually a hand trap, so whenever your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you can remove 3 spell counters from your field to special summon this card from your hand, then return the monster that was summoned to the hand. So, say your opponent summons their boss monster, you can special summon this guy, and then get rid of it. My only complaint, bad attack, really. So, that's pretty much it. That's my only complaint about him. His effect is definitely good, and I mean that's it. I mean, he's just a good card. We also have 2 Medusa, our last level 4. So he is graveyard recovery. If any of your mythical beasts get sent to the graveyard, you can bring them back with Medusa. Also, its monster effect is it halves the attack and defense of any monster on the field. So it's pretty simple. I run it at 2 because I don't think it's that essential for the deck. It doesn't help speed up plays. And honestly, I thought about running it at 1. And I was going to use the Chaos engine, but I just couldn't think of a good way to get rid of cards, to get my cards in the graveyard to use Envoy. But it's whatever. So I run it at 2. If you want to run it at 1 and figure out a way to get out Envoy, go for it. It's not really that important to the deck. So yeah, we also run 2 Jackal. This is our level 1. When I first saw the deck, I thought that this card was the best card in the entire deck, but my perspective has completely changed. In my opinion, it's probably the worst. Well, second worst next to Medusa. But anyways, if you have no cards in your second. Alright, so all this guy does is his Pendulum effect is that he gets to place a spell counter on someone. Worst Pendulum effect by far, because it's just so bad. It is just really bad. Wasting him just to put a spell counter. So basically you're never going to be putting him in your Pendulum zone ever. Just don't. Also, his monster effect is you remove 3 spell counters. Then you contribute this card to special summon any mythical beast from your deck. So this is really good actually. His monster effect is really good. I do think adding to hand is a little bit better, but he does directly special summon Cerberus or Jackal, so he is good. And like I said, I don't like him. I don't like Jackal. I don't really like his design all that much compared to the other mythical beasts, with the exception of Medusa. But actually, that's a lie. I do really like his design. I was gonna try and make him look bad, but I don't know. He just doesn't sit right with me. I think that level 1s are typically the best effect monsters in the deck, and his Pendulum effect is just so bad. It irritates me. It just doesn't serve any purpose to the deck in my opinion. But anyways, that's all of my ranting for the monsters. Moving on to the spells, we have 3 Citadel of Endymion. It's basically Kyoto Waterfront for spell counters. That's all it is. So there's not really much else to say on it. And we have 3 terraforming to search it out. We also have basically, so it just stores spell counters, and it doesn't have a limit to how many spell counters it can hold either, which is really nice. So we run it simply because it's a bank for all of our spell counters. Just a further explanation. I felt weird leaving it off on that note, but yeah. We also have 3 Pendulum Paradox, a new card out of Extreme Forces, which I'm pretty sure is direct support for Mythical Beasts, since all of them are scale 4. So you can add 2 face-up Pendulum monsters with the same Pendulum scale, but different names from your extra deck to your hand. I like running it at 3, just because we're going to be sending our cards to the extra deck a lot. You can just add them right back to your hand. If you want to run it at less, you can, but I like it at 3. I think it works. 1 for 1 to search out our Jackal, and yes, I know that I said that it's like the worst card basically, but you still need it. You still need it. 3 magical boost. This is also direct support to Mythical Beast because it's called something else in Extreme Forces. I think it's like Mythical Bestiary is what it's called. I'm just going to be reading its effects. So you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard, then target a set card, target 1 card on the field that you can place a spell counter on, and place 2 spell counters on it. If this card is destroyed, you can special summon a monster from your deck, and place 2 spell counters on it. So it's really good. It special summons practically your entire deck. Definite 3 of. I would not even consider running it at any less than 3. The mill effect isn't the best for this deck, but that is where I would run Medusa, and it's just a really good card. Power of the Guardian. I don't remember what this one is called in the TCG, but something Bestiary. I know that, or Beasta something. It is, once again, direct support, and this is the equip spell that I was talking about that's sort of related to their first support card back in the structure deck that this came out in. So when an attack is declared involving the equipped monster, place a spell counter on this card, and the equipped monster gains 500 attack and defense for each spell counter on this card. If the equipped monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can remove a spell counter from your field instead. Really good card. You don't need to run it at 3. You don't really need to run it at all. I just really like it. I think it works. Scapegoat for our Link engine, and of course a Raigeki to finish off our spells. We don't run any traps because traps just slow down the deck, and the deck already is kind of weird in the way it works, so we didn't want to mess it up with any traps. Alright, so we run 1 Baguska. It just controls the board. You can make it with any of your level 4s. We run 8 of them, so you don't need to worry about the inconsistency of making it. You're probably not going to make it too often, but you're still going to make it, and it's still there as an option. 3 Link Spiders with the Scapegoats. 3 Heavy Metal Foes Electrum. Best card to come out of Extreme Forces for sure. You don't really need to run it in this deck, to be honest. It is a lot faster with it, but I think that it's perfectly capable without it. It's fun to use, though, so I recommend it. But if you're on a budget, like I said, for anyone who's on a budget, just replace the Ashes with Ogres and replace these with either Omegas or just like anything, really. There's so many link cards and synchros out that you can figure something out, I'm sure. Akashic and Proxy, this is for the Borreload. Mrs. Radiant, you can make it with the Scapegoats. It's just a beater, since the only thing that you'd be able to add back is your max C, which is a neat little interaction that I love with it, but once your opponent knows you have max C, it's easier for them to figure out their plays. Ningirsu, it's just a staple in any extra deck at this point. I'm waiting for it to get banned. I mean, I'm hoping it doesn't, obviously, because I run World Chalice, and once it gets banned, you know, World Chalice isn't going to be a deck anymore. So, but I run it for now. 2 Firewall Dragon, just because we run so many Scapegoats. Such a good card. Skull Deed. So this is also because we run a Scapegoat. It's just a really good link for Borreload to get over problematic monsters. Alright, so that's pretty much it. I'll be doing an update for this deck when Extreme Forces actually comes out. Just because this is a deck that I had a lot of hopes for and I really liked when it came out, or like when I heard about it from the Japanese release and from when all the cards were getting spoiled. I had really high hopes for this deck when a lot of people didn't. So I'm definitely going to keep up with this deck, and I'm probably going to build it in real life and do a deck profile on it there. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure you check out my Twitter in the description. But yeah, make sure you subscribe. That's the most important part of that list, because I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible, and every subscriber counts. So, thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time, and as always, have a roaring good day.